Welcome back to our channel. We have so much to unpack together, and we cannot wait to share all these juicy details with you. Let us jump right into the heart of the drama. I have been watching the situation with Curtis Ashford unfold, and my heart just absolutely breaks for him and his entire family. Seeing Curtis facing a devastating 10-year prison sentence is enough to bring tears to anyone's eyes. He is a good man who loves his family fiercely, and being locked away in that cold, unforgiving environment is a nightmare I would not wish on anyone. He is holding on to this fragile hope that he might be released in 2 years on parole, but in the soap opera world, 2 years might as well be a lifetime. The sheer agony of being separated from the people he loves is taking a massive toll on his spirit, and I can feel his desperation radiating through the screen every single time we see him behind those bars. Then we have Jordan Ashford, bless her heart, who is trying so incredibly hard to be the strong woman we all know she is. She made a promise to wait for Curtis, holding on to the beautiful dream that they will rebuild their life together the moment he walks out of those prison doors. But let us be completely honest with ourselves. The reality of coming home to an empty house every single night is crushing her. The silence in her home must be deafening. She is a woman who thrives on connection and partnership, and suddenly, the man she loves is gone, leaving her to navigate this terrifyingly lonely chapter all by herself. I can see the exhaustion and the deep, aching loneliness in her eyes, and it makes me so worried about the choices she might make when she feels she has nowhere else to turn. To make matters even more complicated, Curtis made the well-intentioned but incredibly risky decision to place Jordan in the temporary CEO position at Aurora. I understand why he did it. He trusts her implicitly and wants his legacy protected, but he unknowingly placed her right in the path of a massive emotional storm. Running a major company like Aurora is an unbelievable amount of pressure for anyone, let alone someone who is privately grieving the loss of her partner to the prison system. Jordan is carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders, dealing with corporate sharks and endless responsibilities, all while her heart is breaking for Curtis. It is a recipe for absolute disaster, and it sets the perfect stage for her to seek comfort in the most unexpected of places. As Jordan navigates this high-stakes corporate world, she is also battling her own deep-seated insecurities, particularly regarding the physical and emotional scars she carries. She has been through so much trauma, and those scars are a constant reminder of the pain she has endured. When a woman is feeling that vulnerable, that lonely, and that physically insecure, she desperately needs someone to make her feel seen, valued, and beautiful again. And this is exactly where Michael Corinthos steps into the picture. Michael and Jordan are suddenly spending a tremendous amount of time together at Aurora, and I have this sinking feeling that their professional relationship is about to cross a line that can never be uncrossed. Michael is dealing with his own absolute mountain of heartbreak and chaos right now. He just went through a painful breakup and kicked Jacinda Bracken out of his life, leaving him with this gaping hole of loneliness. On top of that, his marriage to Willow Kane has devolved into a toxic, suffocating mess. Michael has forced Willow to move back into the Quartermaine Gatehouse so he can keep a close eye on her, enforcing all these rigid, controlling rules that are only pushing her further away. He is trying so hard to control everything and everyone around him, but in doing so, he has completely alienated his own wife. His home life is a battlefield, and he is desperately in need of an escape, a place where he does not have to be the bad guy or the enforcer. When you put two profoundly lonely, stressed, and heartbroken people in the same room day after day, sparks are bound to fly. Michael needs a distraction from the disaster that is his marriage to Willow, and Jordan desperately needs a shoulder to cry on. I can just see it happening late nights at the Aurora offices, the rest of the building completely empty, sharing a pot of stale coffee while poring over documents. Those quiet moments of shared exhaustion can so easily turn into deep, emotional conversations. Michael is a very charming, attentive man when he wants to be, and I can completely picture him looking at Jordan, looking past her scars, and making her feel like the most captivating woman in the world. What makes this potential pairing even more fascinating, and frankly a little terrifying, is how much Michael and Jordan actually have in common. They are both incredibly strategic thinkers who understand the dark, complicated ways of Port Charles. Michael is keeping Willow trapped at the Quartermaine estate to monitor her reckless behavior, operating on the philosophy of keeping his enemies, or in this case, his unpredictable wife, close. Ironically, Jordan is doing the exact same thing at Aurora. She recently approved Drew Kane's request to become more involved in the company's operations, specifically so she can keep an eye on him. They both understand the heavy burden of leadership and the necessity of playing chess with the people around them. This shared mindset creates a powerful, magnetic bond between them. They do not have to explain their ruthless or calculated decisions to one another because they inherently understand it. I can see them sitting across from each other in that boardroom, sharing a knowing look, realizing that they are perhaps the only two people in town who truly understand the immense pressure they are under. That kind of intellectual and emotional intimacy is a very slippery slope. When you find someone who finally understands the darkest, most complicated parts of your mind, it is almost impossible not to fall for them, especially when you are both starving for affection. I know for a fact that Jordan is going to feel an overwhelming, crushing sense of guilt if she allows herself to cross this line with Michael. She loves Curtis, and she knows that he is sitting in a jail cell, trusting her to hold down the fort. But temptation is a wicked, powerful thing. The human heart can only endure so much isolation before it reaches out for warmth, regardless of the consequences. The temptation to just let go, to surrender to the comfort Michael is offering, might just become too immense for her to fight off. I can envision a moment where the tension simply boils over, where the guilt is momentarily swept under the rug and they give in to this explosive, forbidden passion. But just as they might be getting swept up in this dangerous romance, the universe is going to throw a massive, heartbreaking curveball their way. The information coming out tells us that Curtis is going to become the victim of a brutal, terrifying attack inside the prison. The thought of Curtis being beaten and rushed to the intensive care unit makes my stomach tie in knots. It is my absolute worst fear for him realized. This violent incident is going to send shockwaves through Port Charles, and it is going to hit Jordan like a freight train. The guilt she will feel if she is wrapped up in Michael's arms while Curtis is fighting for his life in a hospital bed will be absolutely soul-crushing. However, in the twisted world of Port Charles, every tragedy presents a bizarre opportunity. With Curtis clinging to life in the ICU, the brilliant and slippery attorney Martin Gray is likely going to see a golden opportunity to get his client out of prison. Martin is not one to let a crisis go to waste, and he will absolutely use this horrific attack to argue that the prison system cannot keep Curtis safe. He will fight tooth and nail to get that 10-year sentence overturned, or at the very least, secure an early, compassionate release. The wheels of justice might suddenly start spinning very fast, meaning Curtis could be coming home much, much sooner than anyone anticipated. This is where the story gets incredibly tense, and I find myself sitting on the edge of my seat just thinking about it. Michael and Jordan are going to have to scramble to extinguish whatever fire they have started between them. The sheer panic of knowing Curtis is coming home early will force them to try and bury their illicit affair deep in the past. But secrets in Port Charles never stay buried, do they? They always claw their way back to the surface at the worst possible moment. I can only imagine the absolute, uncontrollable rage that will consume Curtis if he discovers that the woman he loves and trusts gave herself to Michael Corinthos while he was bleeding in a prison yard. But my goodness, the writers might be setting us up for an even more earth-shattering revelation. What if this brief, intense affair leaves a permanent mark? There are whispers and hints that Jordan could wind up pregnant with Michael's baby, and I just cannot even begin to fathom the level of chaos this would unleash. A pregnancy would take this storyline from a scandalous affair to a generational, family-destroying catastrophe. It would completely obliterate any chance Jordan and Curtis have of reconciling, and it would tie Jordan to the Corinthos family in a way she never, ever wanted. Just imagine the fallout across the different families if Jordan turns up pregnant. Sonny Corinthos would suddenly have another grandchild, tying his mob legacy directly to the former police commissioner. Willow, who is already spiraling out of control and rebelling against Michael, would lose whatever tiny shred of sanity she has left upon learning her husband fathered a child with another woman while keeping her locked up like a prisoner. And poor Curtis, who has already lost so much of his life and his freedom, would be forced to watch the woman he loves raise another man's child. It is a tragedy of Shakespearean proportions, and I am absolutely captivated by the sheer emotional destruction it promises. I have to say, watching this story develop feels like watching a slow-motion train wreck in the most compelling way possible. You want to reach through the screen and shake Michael and Jordan, begging them to step back from the edge, but at the same time, you completely understand the deep human pain that is driving them into each other's arms. It is messy, it is heartbreaking, and it is exactly the kind of deeply emotional, character-driven storytelling that keeps us all coming back day after day. I will be watching every single episode, holding my breath, waiting to see exactly when this ticking time bomb finally explodes and changes the landscape of Port Charles forever.